Good morning, folks. I'm back out of Dad's shop. I recently had somebody ask me what the difference was between a buzz coil and a low tension coil that you run on the antique double flywheel hit and miss or throttle governed engines. So I thought I would just make a quick video explaining the difference between the two of them and showing how each works. And this monitor pump jack engine is a great one to show how the buzz coil ignition works, because everything's right out in the open where you can see it well. This is a factory made buzz coil battery ignition. Some of them that you see with a buzz coil on them, or a lot of them that you see with a buzz coil on them, have been converted to run off a buzz coil, and it's either because it used to have an igniter and they converted it to spark plug, or the magneto that was on it's shot. There's some reason that they've replaced the original ignition with a buzz coil ignition. So we'll start at the battery. We've got a 12 volt battery in here. We use these little gel cell batteries. They work good, but you can use a car battery, any 12 volt battery. And then right next to it in here, we've got our buzz coil. This is a reproduction Model T coil instead of the wooden Model T coils, but it is the exact same thing. There's no difference in how you hook it up or how it works. This is just a modern replacement. So the way that these are wired, you've got your positive wire goes to the positive post on the battery. Ground wire grounds to this one. You can't see it in here, but it's grounded right to the bottom of the box that goes right into the frame of the car. It's just got to be grounded. It can be grounded to a nut on the engine or anything. It just has to be grounded to the engine. So your negative is grounded to the frame of the engine. Positive, let me loop this wire around the other way. I don't like the way that was sticking up there. Positive goes to the positive terminal on your buzz coil. This one, you can't really read the label anymore. That says spark. And the one down here, let me see if I can pick that up far enough to see it. On the end of the buzz coil is your negative. Your negative is going to go to your timer on the engine. The timer is whatever trips on the engine to close the circuit so that this has a complete circuit. And when it does that, this coil buzzes, makes spark. That's what this wire is. Comes out, comes around here. This is that same white wire that was on the spark terminal down there, connected directly to the spark plug. The wire that was coming off the end that I said closes the circuit comes to the timer. The timer on this engine is right out here in the open. It is this little, let me turn another light on here so you can get a little more light down in here. This little piece right here comes up from where my finger is, and there's a fan stock clip on here that wire is through. Our light's going to start flashing in here for some reason. Shut that one back off. So your wire that goes to the negative comes off of this little spring here. It's a spring steel clip, and it is completely isolated from everything. I don't know if you can see there, that material that's in there, and there's like, it's like a fiber or something on both sides. So it's got that completely insulated from the ground to the engine, so that when the engine cranks over and these little posts come up and touch this spring clip, that's what closes the circuit and then your buzz coil starts to buzz. Down here in the box with the battery, you can see when I turn that, it's kind of hard to see clear down in there, but those points start going open and close, open and closed. You can see a little spark there. That's what makes the spark here up to your spark plug, makes the engine fire. I will take you out to the side building and show you the setup on one of our Fairbanks Morris engines out here that's got a homemade setup that does the same thing. Alright, out here in the side building, we've got this 6-horse Fairbanks Morris. I should tell you, all that noise in the background, they're doing road construction outside, so there's jackhammers and stuff beeping, backing up. Ignore that noise, nothing I can do about that. But this 6-horsepower Fairbanks Morris used to have an igniter and magneto. Long before we got it, somebody replaced the igniter and magneto with a spark plug. They made this big heavy plate that fastens right on with the hardware that originally fastened on the igniter and has a spark plug in it now. The spark plug wire runs back underneath the engine, comes in here. I'll try to stand where I'm not in the light. Same thing. We got one of the new buzz coils in here too. Spark is the top center post. Positive is the other top post. Negative is the post that's on the end of the buzz coil. The timer setup on this is this wire that's coming off the end, because the timer is what closes your loop to make a complete circuit. That wire comes out, runs around here. Let's take a look right through the flywheel at the setup that somebody has built on here. They've got a fan stock clip for your wire to go into. Let me get my little flashlight out. It's kind of dark. We haven't got good lighting out here in the side building. Okay. We got the little fan stock clip there that the wire is clipped into. They've got this insulated on a big piece of like plastic, I don't know, it looks like cutting board material. I can't think of what it's called, but anyway, it's a plastic insulator. So this is all connected to the plastic, then the plastic's connected to the engine, so it's completely isolated from the engine. Then back through there you can see that little brass loop. We'll try to get a shot of that from the top. That is what makes the contact on here. You're not going to be able to see it from the top, I guess. But if you look back in here, right back there, that little brass loop is connected. And on the back side of this gear, there is a post. Let me crank it around and get it closer so you can see what I'm talking about. On the back side of that gear, there's a brass post right there. That brass post comes around and touches that brass or copper maybe loop that they made on their homemade timer on there. I will turn the engine until it's making contact, and you should hear the buzz coil start to buzz. Oh, you won't yet because I didn't hook the battery up. Let's stop right there. Of course the flywheel's going to keep turning. Look back in there, you can see that that post is touching that loop that they made for their timer. When that comes around and strikes that, that's when it starts to spark. hook the battery back up in here. And now, when I turn the flywheel, that brass stud that's on the back side of that gear is going to come around, contact that loop that's insulated. That's going to complete the circuit, and the buzz coil down here in the box should buzz. And there it goes. You can see the spark on the points. The points make a spark in there, and then the spark comes out that center wire up to the spark plug. That's what makes it fire. That is how a buzz coil ignition is set up. And every engine's a little bit different, but you've always got a timer. The timer's insulated from the engine, and then you've always got something that's grounded to the engine that comes around and makes contact with that timer, and that's what completes your circuit. And once you've got a complete circuit on that buzz coil, it's going to buzz, and that spark post on the top middle is going to be throwing a spark. I'll post a little clip from a video that I made about a year ago about testing buzz coils and show you what kind of spark those things throw. There you can see the spark jumping across there, the good hot spark. Now let's go look at an engine that has a low tension coil set up on it. Okay, it's going to be much louder out here with the construction noise because we're outside now and got the door open to our shipping container that we store a bunch of stuff in here. This is my 1909 Lawson engine, and it is a factory setup that had a low tension coil, and I'll show you how we've got that wired up. Low tension coil is for an engine that has a igniter, not a spark plug. The igniter, I'll post a little clip of the John Deere engine that I'm working on now that shows really well what the igniter has, but it's literally a set of points that is inside the cylinder of the engine, and those points make and break, and when they break they make a spark, and that is what fires your engine. They run off of a low tension coil. This is one that I just bought off eBay. A guy makes them. There's old antique ones you can find. You can buy brand new ones. You can run some of these engines just using an automotive coil and using the 2 posts, positive and negative posts on the top of a 12 volt automotive coil, and it will work on most engines. It doesn't on this one because this requires a little hotter spark, but on a lot of engines you can get by with just using the windings of a 12 volt automotive coil and it'll work. These are very simple. I didn't even bring a battery out here. Let me grab my flashlight again, because there's nothing to see when you hook this up. It doesn't buzz, it doesn't make a spark, it doesn't do anything, but you've got positive and negative battery cables in here. That's all it is. The black is grounded to the engine, the red goes to the igniter. Sorry again about all this noise. This is a horrible time to decide to make this video, I guess. Those wires come up underneath the engine here, come right up here. The black wire is uninterrupted and goes right there to that ground screw right there. So that is where the negative comes straight from the battery there and grounds right on the igniter. The positive comes from the battery and goes to one of the posts on your coil. The other one has a wire that comes off of the other post and goes up to the igniter. And when you spin the engine over on this particular engine, I should be able to turn with one hand and keep the camera focused. When you turn the engine over on this particular engine, that arm comes forward, pushes, and at that point, those points inside of there go closed. Then it goes forward a little more, right there where that skips off of there, those points jerk back open and it makes a spark inside the engine, and that's what fires your engine. So the low tension coil is just a coil to help build your spark. And when you crank this over, I'll crank it one more time here. Points go close, the circuit is completed in coil, and you start building up your voltage for the spark. Right there, that clicks back. When that clicks shut, the points inside of there click back open, jumps the spark as they click open, the engine fires. That's how a low tension coil works. Every engine that has ignition has either a battery and low tension coil or a magneto that's a low tension magneto. Now I'm going to show you one more thing back in the shop before we go. Okay, we're back in the shop. This is the John Deere engine that I was working on 2 videos ago, and we'll probably be working on again in my next video. And I was going to run this off of a low tension coil, and this is one that you would totally be able to run off of an automotive coil, because unlike the Lawson out there where the points stay open until that arm comes forward and pushes them shut, and they're only shut for a very short time and then pop right back open to make the spark, this is typically closed, so it has more time to build your voltage for the spark. So you can run these just using the positive and negative posts on the top of a 12 volt automotive coil. And if I was to run this off of a battery and coil, you would obviously have to have your battery, you would have your coil, either like the coil that was on the Lawson out there or just an automotive coil, and you would have to have your ground from the battery go to a ground on the engine. So I would clean up underneath that bolt, put the ground right there. That's where we have it on our other John Deere engine that we use a battery and coil on. And if it wasn't in our trailer and right up against the wall where you can't see it, I would be showing it to you on that. So ground from the battery directly to a ground on the engine, wherever you want. It doesn't matter, but one of those mounting bolts is a very convenient place. The positive wire coming from your battery would go from the battery to the positive post on your automotive coil. The negative post on the automotive coil would have a second wire coming from it, and it would go right here to this clip. This clip typically has your wire coming from your magneto, but if your magneto's junk or missing and you're going to run this off of a battery and coil, the wire coming from the negative post on the coil goes right underneath that clip, and then when you connect your battery, you'll see a little spark jump on the battery. I'll put a clip on here of when I was bench testing this exact magneto, and you'll see that when I clip the wire on there, it makes a little spark because the circuit is closed. Just for the heck of it, I hooked the coil up to the igniter while I had it out here on the bench, and it sparks. And then when you crank this engine over, right there, when that clicks, it breaks those points open just for a split second, makes a spark, and that's what fires your engine. So hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully I did a fair job of explaining it. I think it makes sense, but it always makes sense to somebody who already knows how it works. So hopefully I explained that well enough that it makes sense to anyone who's watching this video trying to figure out how to hook up either a buzz coil ignition or a low tension coil ignition on your battery ignition antique engines. If you're enjoying the content that we're putting out, please give the video a like, hit the subscribe button. If you want to help support our channel, the best way that you can do that is when the ads come up, just let the ads play. If it's a really long ad, watch the first 30 seconds of it before you skip it. That's enough to make it count. We really appreciate everybody that watches our videos. Thanks again for watching. Come on back next week. We'll have a video of something here for you to watch.